Hi guys, today we are reading chapter 22 of Blood on the River, Jamestown, 1607, and it is on page 173. Captain Smith, you shall find Powhatan to use you kindly, but trust him not, for he hath sent for you only to cut your throats. Chief of the Warrascoyaks, quoted in William Ed Simmons' Ed the Proceedings. Our trouble starts when winter sets in. If we had more skilled farmers and hunters, and if we had all worked at farming and hunting, we might be able to produce enough food to get us through the winter. But as it is, our men are kept busy searching for gold, digging sassafras, and making clapboards, glass, pitch, tar, and soap ashes to ship back to England in the hopes that something in the lot will make a profit for the Virginia Company. And to make things worse, when Captain Newport leaves in December, he takes a lot of our food stores with him, saying he and his soldiers will need them for the long voyage home. At least he takes Captain Ratcliffe as well, and rids us of him. When our barrels are close to empty, Captain Smith goes to trade with the natives for grain, but he comes back empty-handed. Chief Powhatan has commanded all of his tribes not to trade with us. He is wielding his power, says Captain Smith. He is showing us that the crowning ceremony angered him, and that his power is not diminished by it. We will see what else he plans to do. We are allowed 1 cup of grain for each person each day, and I am always hungry. I often think of the feast as Werowocomoco and wish I was there again. Richard and I dig up sassafras root to chew to ease our hunger. Then we talk about food, trying to use our minds to fill our bellies. My mom used to make Yorkshire pudding at Christmas time, I say, with the crust just a little brown and loads of gravy. Richard closes his eyes, imagining. And remember All Saints' Day at the orphanage, he asked, when we had stew with enough meat in it so everyone got some? We talk about the birds and fish we roasted on Nevis, and I tell him again about the mounds of peas, squash, and venison at the Werowocomoco feast. Soon our jaws are tired from chewing on the sassafras root, and for a time our bellies are fooled into thinking we have eaten. Then, one day, we have good news, or what seems like good news. 2 natives arrive to tell us that Chief Powhatan is ready to trade. He will give us food if we bring him what he wants: a grindstone, a rooster, and a hen, copper, beads, 50 swords, several muskets, and workmen to build him an English-styled house. He knows we are hungry enough that Captain Smith might well give him all he wants, including the weapons. President Smith rubs his forehead and says quietly, "We are desperate for the food." To the messenger, in Algonquian, he says, "Tell Chief Powhatan we come. Give things he wants." But as the messengers walk away, he says in English, "Except the guns and swords. I will throw in some extra gifts instead." I smile, watching the battle of wills between Captain Smith and Chief Powhatan is like watching the dance of a sword fight between 2 proud, powerful men. We load up 2 barges and the Discovery for the trip to Werowocomoco. We hope to bring all 3 of the vessels back laden with food. The first night, we stop at Warrascoyak village and are welcomed as guests. Chief Sasenticum shares his pipe of tobacco with Captain Smith and shares some advice as well. I listen hard to understand the Algonquian words. Chief Powhatan will treat you kindly, but do not trust him, he says. He has sent for you only to slit your throat. Captain Smith does not seem surprised, and I realize he has already guessed that this might be a trap. We keep guns ready, he says in his choppy Algonquian. Then he looks at me. I leave boy with you, he asks Chief Sasenticum. I send messenger to him. If I dead, boy go to Jamestown, tell others. This chills me to my bones. I want to object, to tell Captain Smith not to go. Why is he willingly walking into a trap? We are surviving on our grain, I want to tell him. Captain Newport will be back soon. Let us all return to Jamestown tomorrow and wait for the supply ship. But I don't say anything. It is not my place. Chief Sasenticum agrees. Captain Smith and the other men will go on to Werowocomoco in the morning. I will stay in the Warascoyoc village and wait. If Captain Smith is killed, I will return to Jamestown to bring the news. The next morning, I watch the Discovery sail away with Captain Smith at her helm. I wonder if it will be the last time I see him. I push down sadness. I have already lost Reverend Hunt. I don't want to lose Captain Smith as well. I tell myself that he is wily and smart and will not easily fall into Chief Powhatan's trap. The Warascoyoc village is a busy place, and I want to do my share of the work. But when I try to help two girls with their pounding of corn into meal, Kenta, Chief Sasenticum's son, pulls me away. That work is for women to do, he says. I will show you men's work. He takes me into the forest. There is a thin layer of snow on the dead leaves, and my feet crunch loudly on them. He stops and looks at me, frowning. You are very loud, he says. He inspects my shoes. My mother will make you moccasins. He looks around, finds a sapling that seems to be just right for what he is searching for, and cuts it down with his hatchet. I will teach you how to make a bow and arrow, he says. Working with wood and stone is a good way to keep my mind off what might be happening to Captain Smith. Kenta teaches me how to peel the bark off the sapling, cut notches for the bowstring, and string it with strong goot. We make several arrow shafts from straight, thin wood. He shows me how to make an arrowhead, chipping a piece of rock until it is the right shape. It is a slow process, and I ruin several pieces of rock before I get it right. But finally, I am able to make my first arrowhead. Then I tie it to a shaft and balance the shaft with feathers so that it will shoot straight. When we grow hungry, we go to the communal cook fire. There we find a large clay pot filled with hominy and venison stew, fish on the grill, and bread baking in the hot ashes on the ground. Eat, says Kenta. He tears off a piece of bread and uses an oyster shell to scoop stew right out of the pot. I do the same. It is delicious. This is what I've seen people do all day. Just come up to the pot and take what they want to eat. I realize that they have no meal times, no rationing of food, and I think that these Powhatan people must be the wealthiest people on the earth. A young woman comes to put a new loaf of bread in the ashes and to stir the pot of stew. She wears a kind of apron made of deerskin that hangs down to her knees. Her arms, face, and legs have colorful tattoos of patterns, flowers, fruits, and snakes. Her black hair is plaited into one long braid, hanging down to her hips. She smiles shyly at me. How strange I must look to her in my English clothes. No messenger comes that day or the next. I don't know if this is good news or bad. I have no choice but to wait. At sunrise, I go with Kenta down to the river, where he bathes in the frigid water. I stay shivering on the shore. Kenta sprinkles a bit of tobacco on the river, closes his eyes, and lifts his hands, and I know he is praying. This is what the Namantak did each morning when he lived with us in Jamestown. The days go by, and I learn more about men's work, which is mostly about hunting and fishing. I am also careful to learn which chores are women's work so that I will not embarrass myself again by trying to do any of it. Planting, weeding, harvesting, making clay pots, cooking, making clothes, it is all for the girls and women to do. Kenta teaches me how to make a knife by chipping a piece of rock until it is sharp, then tying it with gut onto a short stick. He gives me a buckskin pouch and shows me how to hang it from my waist with a leather strap. My knife fits nicely inside. I continue to make my arrows, chipping the arrowhead and tying the feathers until I have enough to go on hunting. Kenta shows me how to weave a case so that I can carry my arrows on my back. He has me practice with my bow and arrows and a target until I shoot straight. It snows. Kenta says, this will make hunting even easier because we will see the animal tracks in the snow. I have my new moccasins. I will walk carefully, heel to toe, the way he has shown me, trying to be as silent as he is. I am concentrating so hard that at first I do not notice someone else who has been walking quietly in the forest. Then, suddenly, I look up and see him. Namantak, I cry out. I am very glad to see him. Then, when I realize why he has come, I am filled with fear. He is the messenger from Werowokomoko. I stand, gripping my bow, waiting for the bad news. Namantak smiles. Do not look so worried, Samuel. Your master sends good wishes. I groan with relief. Then I am confused. Why have you come and not Captain Smith? I ask him in English. He answers me in Algonquian. I am in his world now. Captain Smith says you will stay with the Waraskoyak through the winter. You will learn more of the language and eat well. Kenta joins us. He and Namantak exchange the greeting of countrymen with one's fist. Each taps first his own chest, then forehead, and then taps the other boy's chest and forehead. Come, says Kenta, you must be hungry after your journey. We will hunt later. We sit with Namantak at the communal fire as he eats. I form my question in Algonquian. Chief Powhatan make trap? I ask him. Now that I have heard the good news, I am ready to hear the whole story. Yes, Namantak say, but your Werowanse is quick as a rabbit. The trap did not catch him, he grins. He likes Captain Smith as much as I do. In between mouthfuls, Namantak tells us what happened. Captain Smith and his men arrived in Werowokomoko and were treated kindly. They traded for lots of corn, but by the time their boats were loaded up, the tide was out and the boats couldn't move. They had to spend the night in Werowokomoko, staying in one of the houses. Just after dark, Captain Smith heard a sound at the door. It was Pocahontas. Her eyes were wide with terror. "You must go," she said. "In a little while my father's men will bring you food. As soon as you put your weapons down and begin to eat, they will slit your throats with your own swords. And if they don't succeed, there will be a bigger attack later." She begged them to leave right away. She was crying. She knew that if she was caught warning Captain Smith, her father would have put her to death. She may have been playing acting the first time, I think. But this time, she really did risk her life to save Captain Smith. The tide was still too low for them to leave. Within an hour, 10 strong warriors came with platters of food, just like Pocahontas had said they would. The warriors said the slow matches of the king's men gun were smoking up the room, making them sick, and they would have to put them out. But Captain Smith just said, "Oh, we don't mind the smoke." Then we made the warriors taste all of the food to make sure it wasn't poisoned. Captain Smith and his men ate their supper with their guns smoldering and ready. "And later, big attack?" I asked. Namantok tells us how the Englishmen kept up the guard half the night, standing with their muskets ready. There never was an attack. At midnight, the tide had risen enough to move the boats, and they left. So Captain Smith and his men are safe, and they have taken corn back to Jamestown. Thank you. Good news, I say to Namantok. It has begun to snow again, and Namantok is invited to stay the night. He sleeps in the family house with Kainta and me. The next day, the three of us go hunting. We walk quietly through the wide forest, stalking rabbits. We see one. Even I have been quiet enough not to startle it. Kainta and Namantok both look at me. They want me to shoot, to have a chance to make my first kill. Silently, I pull out an arrow and string it on my bow. I make my breath even and slow so that it will not affect my shot. I watch the rabbit as it hops along the undergrowth, looking for food. I pull back the bowstring and aim. Then I let the arrow fly. There is a whoosh and a thud. The arrow hits its mark. The hare lies still. Blood seeps out where my arrow has entered its side, staining the snow bright red. Kainta claps me on the back. "You have learned well," he says. I am still amazed at what I have done. "Go, take your prize, and give thanks to the god Okius for your meat," says Namantok. I tie the rabbit's hind feet to a piece of gut and hang it around my waist. We hunt some more, and the other two boys also get rabbits. The winter day is short. When the sun sinks down, casting long shadows over glittering snow, it is time to return to the village. I use my knife to cut open the rabbit's abdomen and clean out its entrails, and to peel the rabbit's skin away from the meat. My rabbit, which I have killed myself with the weapon I made myself, becomes part of the communal stew that evening. It makes me feel proud and strong. Namantok goes home to Werowokomoko, and I stay at the Waraskoyak village, as Captain Smith has prescribed. Kainta and I do much more hunting. He shakes his head when he sees me trying to keep my hair, which is getting quite long, out of my way. He asks his mother to cut my hair for me. She takes 2 mussel shells and grates away the hair on the right side of my head, down to the scalp. It pinches and pulls, but I keep still. On the left side, she leaves it long, and she cuts a ridge of short hair down the middle of my head, so that my hair looks very much like the other men and boys. There, says Kenta. Now it will not get caught in your bowstring. When the winds of February blow cold, I wear a mantle of deerskin. During the March thaw, I kill my first wild turkey. Kenta ties 2 of its feathers into the long side of my hair. In late April, when the mosquitoes, flies, and gnats come out, Kenta shows me how a layer of bear grease mixed with the powder of red pucon root keeps the bugs away. It also makes my skin red. I no longer look very much like an English boy. One day, we boys are playing a game that is much like English football. We have a goal at each end of a field, and we kick a ball made of skins, trying to score by kicking the ball into the other team's goal. I have finally gotten tired of sweating in my slops and long-sleeved shirts during these games, and have let Kenta's sister make me a buckskin breechcloth to wear. The red pucon dye protects my back, chest, arms, and legs from insects and the burning of the sun, and my moccasins protect my feet for running. The right side of my hair has been newly shaved by Kenta's mother, and the left side of my hair is quite long, almost to my shoulders. I have added a few shells to the feathers as ornaments. As we play, I hear a call of Wingapo, spoken with English accent. I stop running. I have almost forgotten what English speech sounds like. What I see takes my breath away. It is Richard, Nathaniel, Henry, Abram, and several others. They look thin and wan. They are walking towards us. Richard calls out, speaking Algonquian as if he has memorized just what to say. Captain Smith send. Need eat. Find English boy. Samuel. I sputter. Richard? I call to him. It's me. Richard's eyes go wide and his mouth drops open. By God, he's turned into a savage, Henry says. I ignore Henry and go to greet Richard and the others. The Indian boys gather around us. Are you here to bring me back? I ask, still not understanding why they have come. Richard shakes his head. We are here to stay for a while, to eat. Rats got into the grain. There were so many of them, they looked like maggots squirming in the barrels. We have almost nothing left. So President Smith has sent us different places. Some he sent up the river to live on the oysters, some down the river to Point Comfort to live on fish, and some to friendly tribes. We got sent here. We have copper to pay our way. I translate as best I can for Kenta. He nods and says he will go tell his father that they are here. So, Richard eyes me curiously. Did that stuff just get stuck in your hair, or did you put it there on purpose? I sock him playfully in the arm, and we both laugh. I think of how I want to teach him what I have learned, how to make snares to catch beavers, otters, and squirrels, how to build a fire in a canoe at night so the fish will be mesmerized and come close so we can spear them, how to find mushrooms and roots and berries that are good to eat. I know that with the knowledge I've gained from living with the Weraskoyaks, we don't ever have to be hungry again.